On this episode of Cuba Cerita, I've invited 4 of my high school buddies from St. John's Institution to join me at Bayang Coffee Cafe, TTDI. Ron Pickering, Ibrahim Yunus, Mark Rosario, Andrew Chan and I are from the SJI class of 1981, fondly known as the SJI Dragons of 64. Each of us have pursued our own successful career paths but remain close-knit with a small group of former childhood classmates. We belong to a generation who may have differing race origins, religious beliefs, and professional interests, yet we never take notice of this in our personal interactions. Watch and listen to our stories. Be inspired that such commonalities are still prevalent among the Malaysian community in general. This will continue to be the uniqueness and strength of us Malaysians. We are from Malaysia. This is the Merdeka in me. Assalamualaikum and welcome to this episode of Cuba Cerita. Goodness, well, almost nearing the end of season 2, and all this while we've endeavored to bring you exclusive guests, people who come from extensive backgrounds professionally and personally, highly accomplished professionals in their own right. But today is different.
What? We are not highly accomplished professionals?
I just have these 4 fellas who are free on a Friday afternoon to come and join us on this Cuba Cerita. But seriously, let me please welcome 4 of my old buddies from school, from left to right, Andrew Chan, Mark Rosario, Ibrahim Yunus, and Ron Pickering. Thanks guys for coming.
Thanks for having us.
So, you've been diligent fans of Cuba Cerita. Thank you so much. Although not sponsoring yet.
Inshallah.
But today is really in the spirit of the coming Merdeka. I want to invite you guys because there's so much about Merdeka in us. Yeah, both from the viewpoint of our memories of our childhood, maybe growing up through the years of Merdeka each day, each time as Hari Kebangsaan approaches. But also, in a way, there's many memories of our own personal life and career, which I think are still relevant today. So I'd like us today maybe to share some of those anecdotes and starting with even thanking you guys for coming to share this afternoon. So, just for the benefit of the audience, we all are from St. John's, class of 1981. We call ourselves the SJI Dragons of 64 because all of us were born in 1964, the year of the dragon, of course, in that time. And all of us grew up together in our own, little parts of St. John's, and we went on our careers later on. We didn't really overlap in our careers, but somehow over the years we have continued to maintain that relationship, friendship and brotherhood. So I think we belong to a generation where, maybe today is different. And as we will learn along the way, each and every one's are successful in our own way. So I'm going to begin maybe by Ron.
Yes.
Can you maybe begin by sharing a bit about your background? What are maybe the finer points of your formative years? Particularly, anything that you can remember about memories of what your parents, shared with you as you were growing.
Okay, I come from a mixed marriage, obviously, with a name like Ron Pickering. It's funny, every time someone meets me, they always say, "Where's Ron Pickering?" And they look at me and I say, "Oh, you're Ron?" Yeah, I'm Ron. So my father is partly English and partly Portuguese.
Wow.
And my mother is Chinese. So my father was born in Mumbai, India.
Wow.
Because my grandfather was in the British Army. and then he obviously migrated over here, actually to Singapore, and subsequently to Malaysia. That's where my father met my mother, and they obviously got married, and they had me and two other brothers. Both of them actually were teachers initially.
Both mom and dad.
Mum and dad were teachers. Dad subsequently joined the army. So my grandfather was serving in the British Army. My father served in the Malaysian Armed Forces. And as you well know, I actually served in the Malaysian Armed Forces as well. Initially.
Initially lah.
I was a MINDEF scholar. I went to the US. I received my degree in the US. And yeah, so grew up mostly in Malaysia. Then got my degree in engineering in Arizona State University in the United States, and then subsequently came back and served in the army. So 3 generations of being in the army.
In the army, yeah?
Yeah, but my kids, no way. No way, they said. No way we're joining the army. But I mean, having grown up in the army, I was brought up, very disciplined. And the guy sitting next to me, actually, we used to be neighbors. Because my father used to work with his father. His father was my father's boss. And it was in the Air Force base in Sungai Besi, right? So we grew up, I think we were riding chopper bicycles in the good old days, So, growing up with, both parents being teachers. So, I've been, thankfully I was exposed in the early days of making sure that I'm able to get along with everyone. And I think both my parents, because they were in the education system and working as teachers, they tended to make sure that us, as we grew up, we were actually getting along with everyone, and that I think, is what I remember most about my parents. Unfortunately, my father passed away when I was in Form 3, I believe, Form 4, something like that, young days. So my mother, who then ended up being the headmistress of Convent Bukit Nanas, so she grew up actually raising, I believe, around 2,000 children.
Kan?
Yeah.
Girls pula tu?
All the girls, and three boys of our own. So that's how I grew up. And I left early. I left when I was 17, I guess, 17 plus, to the US. And since then, I spent most of the time away from home.
Even working and all, right?
Yeah.
Abang Din, also known as Datuk Ib. So your dad was formerly the chief of Air Force.
Right.
Tan Sri Yunus, still active till today,
Right. Yeah, so he was the chief of Air Force. But at that time, he was just the base commander of Sungai Besi Air Force Base. So he was the boss of Ron's dad. And like Ron said, we were neighbors. And I guess where I'm coming from is we grew up in the military community. We grew up in a base. So there were a lot of other races there. A lot of when you go to school, you basically go in a truck. A 3-ton. You got to really climb up the 3-ton. Everybody goes together. Everybody comes back together. And after that, you play together. So it's a military children's life. You've got the field there. You got everything there. We got chopper bikes, which we tend to crash a lot of time. But but both of us are very close. And families are very close. And my sisters went to Convent Bukit Nanas. So happens that the headmistress or teacher then was Ron's mom. So Ron and I went back a long way. Yeah, so a bit about my dad. Since we talked about my dad is actually from Perak, in the Kampung Kota Baru, Kelantan. Okay. And this kampung is actually, if you don't know, Lat's drawing is based on that kampung. So they were playing together and all that. So every time we look at, or he looks at Lat's cartoons, he would say, "Oh, I did that. Oh, I did that. I know this place." And I went back to the kampung when I was small too, and I could recognize drawings. So my dad was from Kota Baru, Perak. My mom was also from Kota Baru, Kota Baru, Kelantan. Okay. So and the lineage from my mom is actually from Patani. Really? So yeah, so we actually come from Thai.
But this is the royal lineage as well, kan?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, so basically they ran away from Patani during the war with the king of Thailand.
Wow.
Yeah. So the story I'm coming to is actually this. My father from Perak, my mother from Kelantan. My mother speaks Kelantanese. My father doesn't want to speak a word of Kelantan. So I grew up talking, in Bahasa Kelantan, Bahasa Malaysia, and when I talk to both of them, I use English. So they're both not to. So it was a good, mixed, and that's how we grew up.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was great. It was great.
And it's only at times like this where you actually suddenly reflect. I mean, even this point about you speaking 3 languages, and I used to come to your house also as a little boy, and we used to hang out at your place. And I remember, that your father most times he was away because he's always on duty.
Right.
But your mom lah, Azman dah sampai. Abading belum bangun lagi, topik lagi. Okay, I'm gonna go to this side now.
Yep.
So Mark Rosario, also Spanish ka?
Also the nine line.
Ini dah line.
Yeah.
But the Rosario
not
family name?
Spanish at all.
The Rosario family name is?
Actually, my ancestry.
Ah.
There's India, China. My mom's Chinese.
Okay.
And also I got some ancestry on my father's side from Macau.
Oh.
So there's all this mixture.
Okay.
So there's Indian blood, there's some Portuguese blood,
Oh.
but majority I would say is Chinese because of my mom.
Okay.
My mom's parents came from China.
Oh, literally, for your grandparents ah?
Yeah.
Wow.
On my mom's side.
Yeah.
My dad was born in KL, so I'm a real city boy, like no kampung.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My dad grew up, I think in the early years, Bukit Salon, and then after that Brickfields.
Okay.
And my early years were actually next to Bukit Nanas.
That's right.
Where
lived
the
there,
KL Tower is.
Okay.
I lived there for my first 11 years.
All right.
Because my dad was in the government, the director of waterworks, where we have the treatment plant.
Yes. The Bukit Nanas treatment plant.
That's right. So I was just 5 minutes from school.
Yeah.
And it was a great place to grow up. Sometimes, some of the friends like Reza used to come over play badminton at my house.
At that house there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So those were primary school, and then secondary school was moved to Bangsa. And that's when all of us were on the school bus.
I remember that.
Rod and Kian Ho.
Yeah.
Along with the CBN girls, of course. Yeah. So, it was great fun. In those years, carefree, and living in that house in my early years. Like Ron, I lost one parent as well at a young age. My mom passed away when I was 11.
Oh.
So my dad more or less single-handedly brought the 4 of us up.
Wow.
One brother and 2 sisters.
Right.
Working as well.
Yeah.
But that house in Bukit Nanas also brings great memories. My dad used to every Christmas we used to have a lot of parties, and also with the staff, from the government, from the waterworks department. And that's one thing I learned, that he had everyone, from the laborers to the senior people, all coming, and no airs, and everyone was. I think that's what taught me to treat people with respect, no matter what background you're from. True.
Yeah. So, this is amazing because, again, we knew each other growing up, but these are the little anecdotes and stories within, kan? I mean, I knew also Andrew because we also lived in a very close
They all were
neighborhood.
in Damansara.
We were in Damansara.
We were in Bangsa. Those days we could cycle over.
Yeah.
There was no BSC.
Yeah.
The road ended at the end of Jalan Marof,
Okay.
but we could still go over. There's a little path
Yeah.
to cycle
Yeah.
over the Damansara and the chopper bikes.
Yeah. And I think the best part was in those days, because there were so few schools, right? And of course they all centered in KL. So we would come from even as far as Subang and from the from the other south side, from the north side, all just converge into KL lah. And of course the public transport system, somewhat we relied on it also, like without the school bus.
Well, Azman, you should tell us about your days as well, because I remember you only came from Australia or something. Standard three.
I'm the host.
We used to say we want to play police and thief, and this guy would say, no, it's cop and robber.
Was it standard 3?
No. Okay, for me it was standard 4. Because
4.
I for my parents' reasons, I was brought up in Melbourne, Australia, and I only came back. That was when I first joined.
So it must have been the Aussie food lah, because this guy was double the size of everybody else, even till today.
Excuse me, I was the taller one lah. The weight grew over the years lah. But let's move back to Andrew. Andrew was the guy in Ramadan. He would stand in front of the chicken rice store and say, Azman, I know you're fasting. I will tapau for you. This is Andrew lah. My brother. And I said, okay. No, not tapau. Eat here. Please lah. So anyway, so Andrew Chan and actually our dads were close friends, golfers and whatever.
Alright, thank you. Like Abang Din's dad, I'm from Perak also. Batu Gajah.
Batu Gajah, yeah.
So both my parents were Perakians. My mom from Taiping. My dad also from Taiping. But my grandparents, because my granddad was a surveyor. So the Kinta Survey Department HQ was in Batu Gajah.
Okay.
So everybody thought Ipoh was the administrative center, but actually Batu Gajah had hospitals, army camps, and all this stuff.
Right.
So born there. Most of the time I spend my time with my grandparents.
In Batu Gajah.
Batu Gajah.
Okay.
Every school holidays I will go back to Batu Gajah. So technically a kampung boy lah.
Chill. But you were in St. John's from standard 1?
Yeah, from standard 1.
See, I never knew that. So I thought school holidays we will be cycling down Jalan Kasar in Medan Damansara.
Every school holidays, because my dad worked in KTM, Kereta Api Tanah Melayu. So Abang Din and Ron, they will naik the military truck. I naik Kereta Api since 9 years old on my own. I will jump onto the train and I will know how to get off in Batu Gajah.
Oh really? From KL to Batu Gajah?
If I miss that, I go Ipoh lah. Macam tu lah cerita dia.
Okay. Do you still have a family home in Batu Gajah?
My granddad had one, but my aunties and my mom sold it about 10 years ago. Yeah.
So I guess in many ways we actually belong to a generation where either our parents or grandparents migrated to KL lah kan?
Correct.
Of course our children today tak ada kampung lagi lah kan? Our kampung is KL lah.
Exactly.
Okay, alright. See, okay. Bringing us back to this Merdeka theme and how it was. Anyone want to share any particular memories of how Merdeka was in those days when we were, say, in school, and what do we actually remember apart from? We always had something to do with Merdeka, I think.
Well, I think in primary school, we used to have to go and do the
Correct.
parade
Yes.
on the Padang,
Kan?
right? And that's where they gave us these colored t-shirts, yellow t-shirts, and depending which group you're in, and learn to do all those
Funny moves,
movements.
Yeah, I think once we had to be on the Padang and don't know whatever lah.
Yeah. And then of course in the latter years we would participate in the parade itself, kan?
But we recall that he couldn't fit in.
Yeah.
You had a t-shirt that was up to here.
Madonna tank top.
Dia memang tak muat.
I was
tank top.
Tank top, Madonna.
You show
tank
the
top.
picture from Standard 5 when you see Azman.
Okay.
So
Okay,
this
wait.
guy that we all in Standard 5, but he looked like he's from 3.
Actually,
Okay. Now, just for the benefit of the crew, I was in standard 5, standard 6. I was already.
Or maybe you're much
5'9".
older than us.
I didn't have heavy legs yet lah. But when I was in standard 5, I was already 5'9". Imagine, my teachers would have to look up to me.
Yeah,
So on Hari Kebangsaan, everyone was given baju colored lah, blue, merah, and kuning. So I got this yellow t-shirt, and it was so short, it was up to here. And I would, biasalah budak-budak dapat last minute kan. So I would, the morning of the Merdeka parade tu, I tried to put on the shirt, and no matter how much I put it down, it was a tank top lah. So I ended up wearing my white uniform shirt lah. So when I turned up at the Padang, and then Mr. Siva, what are you wearing? You're not wearing the t-shirt. Sir, I cannot wear it, sir. It's too long. You stand there. So I was standing next to the white flag, the whole, and you guys were like laughing. I remember in the crowd, I was like standing there, making sure I don't move. I was like an addition to the flag lah. But I think one thing kan, we didn't realize it then, but looking back kan, I think Merdeka was, I mean, sometimes we didn't even understand what was Merdeka all about lah. But I think over the years, the Merdeka has, to me lah, has grown in reason and rationing, because I think in these countries, we actually take for granted, for example, the freedom to mix. I'll be very frank lah. And that's the reason why I wanted to invite you guys today, because I feel the freedom of mixing and respecting and appreciating these differences is something that is lost. Sorry lah.
That's very true, because I notice now, I mean, when my kids were growing up, their friends were no longer, I guess, not so bad, but it wasn't like us, you know, like we had just everyone was just mixing.
More polarization.
Yes,
now.
a lot more polarized. My kids also, you know, well, my kids spent a lot of time overseas, but when they were here studying in school, they didn't really mix that much. You know, they was. I mean, I keep reminding them, you know, you are. In fact, my daughter once came to me, Dad, actually, what am I?
Really,
you know,
yeah?
she didn't really know what race she belonged to, because we're so mixed.
Yeah.
So I said, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You don't have to conform to any particular, you know, race. It should be, you know.
Actually, you know, I think now if any one of us do a DNA test, you'll see our roots are actually from everywhere.
Actually.
All of us.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
true.
my daughter actually did it. She wanted to trace her ancestry. I don't know why, but it was amazing. I mean, yeah. There was even Viking or whatever.
Oh, really?
Okay. The wildness comes out once in a while.
Okay. All right. Anyway, that's really, you know, one part of this session today. I want to also, with all due respect, you guys lah, kan? I mean, let's also reflect that, you know, thank God you guys have, and many of our friends have been successful in our careers, and you know, our life in general in many ways, kan? We're not here to gloat about that lah, but I think it's also important that we share certain parts of that career that maybe helped shape who we became lah. Yeah. So, for example, I like to, with other guests, also reflect on maybe what are reflections on breakthroughs, you know, maybe even overcoming the odds, or even special pivotal points in your life and career that helped shape the persons that you have become today, lah. And again, I leave it to you how you want to share it. This is not scripted, but maybe okay.
Yeah, but before we go there, I just want to, you know, one thing that I remember most. Remember when we were climbing Mount Kinabalu?
Okay.
And we came across, I guess, this Japanese guy that was, and then he started asking us, where are you from? And I said Malaysia, and then the next person was, where are you from? And we will all look different. But then we all said we are from Malaysia, and he was astonished. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
I
had
remember
never
that too.
been to Malaysia before,
Yeah.
and he just couldn't understand
Yeah.
why we all look so different,
Yeah.
and yet we are all saying we are from Malaysia.
same, 'cause-
because can you imagine in Japan, right?
Yeah.
They will all,
They all
look
look the same.
Japanese.
Kan?
Yeah.
Kan?
So
Yeah.
that
yeah.
really
Yeah.
sticks in my
Sticks
mind.
in your mind. And it happened to be also during the Merdeka period. In fact,
Yes,
since
it
you
was
mentioned
during
it,
the Merdeka period.
we do have this feature article which we'll share, which was titled "We Are from Malaysia,"
Yeah, exactly.
and it
That
was written depicting our journey as friends, how we have unrealizingly been together all these years, living with our similarities and our differences, but respecting that, hey, we are all from the same, maybe the same DNA lah. Yeah, thanks for raising that one. Yeah. Just for the benefit of the audience also, I mean, there are some members of our close-knit group who are not here today with us. We couldn't fit everyone, but we even have opportunities in the past where we would have traveled together. We have gone on mountain expeditions together.
These
and
guys have climbed
traveled.
Kilimanjaro, have gone to
Kinabalu a few
Annapurna.
times, Annapurna. Yeah, it was fun, and we'll share some of the photos. But yeah, I mean, coming back to that line of questioning again, respectfully, you were once the country CEO of GE, MD of CEO of AIM. Dane was CEO of Petronas Dagangan, and you were, the president director for Indonesia for Petronas. Ron, Rockwool's country and now regional MD, and then now we have Andrew lah. So Andrew is our SEAL 6 commander in chief lah. He's there everywhere, but we actually don't know. We don't really know what he does. But he's there. Still undercover. He had to come to Bayang Coffee, which have kindly hosted us today in severe secrecy lah. Okay. Please, can we maybe share? While we are still staying here, can you share something about Abang Dane lah? Okay, Abang Dane, you've had the most variety of experience in terms of geography lah.
Yeah.
So Indonesia is your first home, Malaysia is your second home now. Let's be upfront about it.
Yeah.
Anything to share that maybe a pivotal point in your career that helped shape you?
Yeah. Well, I've been a Petronas scholar, so my journey with Petronas started when I went for university until I'm still serving Petronas today.
Wow. Okay.
So without counting the university years, it's already been 37 years as a career in Petronas. So a lot of things happens in Petronas that affected me, made me who I am today. So that journey exposed me to so many jobs, experience, people that I cannot describe in just 5 minutes.
Can?
Yeah, but one of the most memorable one is actually being posted to Indonesia. So being posted to Indonesia as the president director or the CEO of the downstream company for Petronas. You go there. We look alike, we talk similarly, but we do not realize actually we're still Malaysians and they are Indonesians.
Okay.
The simple things is that we look at our stations now. Our stations would have a surau. Surau, right?
Yes.
Over there, they call it musola.
Sola.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we always thought that since we're the same and all that, we'll call it surau too. But actually, it's when they say surau, they're wondering what is that. So it shows that no matter what, we are different to a certain extent. But in Malaysia, if you put surau, everybody knows.
Okay.
Even though you're not a Muslim, it's a place for Muslim to do prayers. So a lot of it opened me up to a lot of things during my journey in Petronas. That's overseas, but the most should I say, magnificent experience is actually we do a lot of mentoring coaching with
Within Petronas.
in Petronas.
Oh.
So one, you coach junior, of course. So you would go in thinking that you will be coaching the person. Actually, at one of my coaching sessions, I found out a lot of things from the guy that I was coaching that I could implement in my life.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's really wonderful, especially learning from someone else, learning from young people, which I had in Petronas. It was great. It was great.
And one thing, then, I remember distinctly about you is that you had the opportunity to move around within the different units and subsidiaries of Petronas, including you spent a stint in HR.
That's right.
And that was before you went to Indonesia.
Correct.
And to me, any leaders who have a chance to go through the real nit and grit of HR really helps to shape you even better as a leader.
Yeah, but at that time, when I was asked to go to HR, I thought it was a punishment. I mean, who would want to go to HR, right?
Yeah.
From
a business unit.
From a business unit, from technical unit. Why would you want to go to HR? I thought it was a punishment for me. I thought it was cold storage. That was it. But being who I am, I confronted my boss and I asked my boss, why do you send me here? Why do you send me to HR? So he said, no, this is for your development. So I guess it's something that and it turned out true, but you accepted it once you hear that. So for the other people who still working, you're sending someone somewhere else and don't know what to say, just say it's for your development.
That's the best thing.
It is.
Getting me ready for the CEO post.
One thing I remember when you say about Indonesia is that your stations here are known as Kedai Mesra, kan? And the word Mesra, I know it was an issue in Indonesia, but I remember that because when I was involved in some initiatives in Indonesia on behalf of UEM, my first meeting with the highway authorities Jasa Marga was kita berjumpa kali ini untuk menjalinkan hubungan mesra antara kedua-dua pihak, like trying lah. My Malay was koyak, my Indonesian lagi teruk lah. So the guy, I remember, he said, Pak, terima kasih kena datang. Cuma kalau kita mau mesra, mungkin belum masanya lagi.
Kena tunggu lagi.
Mesra means literally. This is a censored program lah. So that was my route working to the word mesra lah.
If he explains mesra, he has to change the rating of the program.
Okay. Okay.
Apa dia?
We want to know the covert world that you come from.
We used to call him Perkins.
Perkins, Perkins.
Sheriff Lobo's assistant.
I started in IT.
Yeah.
Right? Because my dad, no doubt in KTM, right? Started from rank and file, from assistant station master, but he retired as the director of IT in KTM.
Okay.
So in that journey, right, 30 years journey, he moved along. So obviously he would influence us to also join IT, right? So when I came back, right, didn't do sales, right, was doing support, and also worked in a bank, right. But subsequently, a gentleman from HP, Encik Jalal, right. So he hired me to do my first sales job. So that time we were selling financial systems on IBM mainframes.
Wow.
Then subsequently moved on, right? Selling hardware on Tandem for the stock exchange, right? And then eventually there was a period in Malaysia where we issued a lot of telco licenses.
Yes.
Right? We had a lot of mobile companies, right? So when they have a lot of companies like this, they need application. So that's where I moved into telecommunications and sold applications.
Sector now.
Telco, yes. So basically doing sales. No covert operation, no sales.
Okay, so CSA, which exists till today.
No, they were sold to CSC.
CSC, okay.
Yeah, Computer Science Corporation, a huge outsourcing company from US.
Right.
They would do outsourcing for the military and large conglomerates in US.
Okay.
So when they came over, I I managed and owned a subsidiary with them.
I see.
And when that happened, then we parted ways.
Right.
So my stay with CSA was about 7.5 years.
Okay.
Then
okay.
subsequently, I did business on my own.
On your own lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, till today. Yeah. And I mean, jokingly, we call it covert because we know you are here, there, and everywhere in many ways lah, kan?
He's a deal maker.
Deal maker. Kingmaker lah.
Buy high, sell low.
Exactly. He keeps telling us buy high, sell low.
That's the money laundering part.
Syarah compliant.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Ron first.
Sure.
Ron, I know you're from the building materials industry.
Yeah, but my journey, I started working when I was in university.
Oh.
I was a teaching assistant.
Oh, yo.
It was great because I get to teach I always help the girls with their homework and stuff like that. But anyway, then after graduating, I worked in the US for a while for ADOT, which is the Arizona Department of Transportation, because I'm a civil engineer. Got my degree as a civil engineer. But when I came back, obviously, I was on a government scholarship. I stayed on a little while longer.
Okay.
But I eventually came back because my mum, as I mentioned, mum's on her own. So I said, my mum said, why don't you stay on in the US? I said, no. Firstly, I'm bound to serve.
Yeah.
So I came back. I served in the army. But when I came back, it was during the recession.
This was the 95, 96
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, and basically, I was an engineer, but when I came back, there was no place in the engineering corps. They put me in charge of transportation.
Within the tentera.
In the tentera. So I used to manage the transportation in the army. Markas Corps Tentera Darat.
Wow.
I used to actually manage the transportation.
And do you come in like a lance corporal or
Sergeant Major.
sergeant?
No, lieutenant.
Boy.
Lieutenant. But actually, we were supposed to come in as captains because we are professionals. But because of the downsizing in the military, they said, "Sorry, we're not going to give you captain. We'll give you lieutenant." But you can't, well, in the army, there's a saying, right? For us, it's not to ask why.
Yeah.
For us, is to do or die.
Yeah,
you know. So I went through the military training, went to Pulada and all this. I went 6 months basic military training.
Wow.
You need to do forward roll, side roll. You do knuckle claps on the bitumen.
1 or 2.
You can do it now?
Now, sorry, no.
Now can clap.
But I mean, being through that in the army, it taught me basically, nothing can be bad. You learn to cope with everything. Then I decided I should leave, and the army was amazed that I could find a job. I actually interviewed, and I got a job in those days used to be called Sungai Way.
Okay.
Now it's Sunway.
Oh.
But in those days,
Sungai
Sungai
Way,
Way.
yeah?
He used to be the CFO, right?
Already?
Yeah.
He was back here already.
In Sunway.
No,
No. But that time he wasn't. No, he wasn't
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
So I worked in Sungai Way for a while, and then I was headhunted. I moved on, and I joined an Australian company.
Okay.
So I was working for. Before that I was headhunted and joined a Finnish company.
Is that Zenbest?
Zenbest was actually a local company.
Okay.
I also worked for.
Yeah,
from
I
Sungai
remember
Way,
that.
I moved to Zenbest,
Yeah.
which was a local company.
Okay.
But I subsequently was headhunted to work for a Finnish company
Yeah.
called Eastern. That time it was called Partek Group.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
then I was headhunted to work for a Australian company. So I spent quite a while for the Australian company, CSR.
CSR.
And I had the opportunity with CSR then to work a bit in Australia, Singapore,
Yeah.
Thailand,
Yeah.
and subsequently I was moved to Hong Kong.
That's right.
I went to a regional role based in Hong Kong, and then I was asked to also regionally look after China because they invested into China.
Yeah.
So I also spent, in total I spent 10 years in Hong Kong, Guangzhou,
Yeah.
Shanghai, Beijing, Tianjin,
Yeah.
before coming back to Malaysia.
Yeah.
But before I came back to Malaysia, the company that CSR was acquired by a Danish company,
Known as Rockwool. Today.
Rockwool,
Yeah, yeah.
where I'm still
Yeah.
with Rockwool till
till
today.
You know
But
one
the
thing.
fact is that I've worked for Americans, I've worked
Yeah.
for locals,
Yeah,
I've worked for
yeah,
Finnish,
yeah,
I've
yeah.
worked for
Yeah.
Australians,
Yeah.
and I've worked for Danish.
Yeah. And one thing I remember, Ron,
Yeah.
was that you were always away actually.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
obviously we still kept in touch. And you would come back whenever we used to go on our initial hikings. You would join us.
Correct.
Wherever
When
you
I was
were.
in Hong Kong, I would
Even
fly
Hong
back.
Kong
Yeah.
and fly back and all that. Yeah. But what are your coming back after so many years overseas and coming into the Malaysian workforce? Is there anything particular that stands out in your memory in terms of change or
Okay, the thing that surprised me mainly was because I was in China when China transformed.
Okay.
And in the space of 10 years, China was like, if I were to compare where I was working in China at that time, I was in Hong Kong, but I would cross over.
Shenzhen.
But it was Shenzhen.
Shenzhen?
But Shenzhen at that time was maybe like Seremban.
Yeah.
It was
The boondocks.
really,
Yeah.
and within a space of 10 years, you had high rises, everything come up. And through the years working in Guangzhou, Beijing, I was there during the Olympics, the
Yeah.
Beijing Olympics.
Oh.
I was involved in quite a few projects, building the bird's nest and the cube. I was involved in those projects as well. But the shocking thing when I came back to Malaysia, which was in 2015, I'm just
No.
focusing on the building industry, right?
Okay.
There was hardly any change.
Really, yeah.
And even those days, and you know me, right? I used to
Yeah.
be pushing for
IBS
yes,
and all that.
industrialized building systems. We got to be better.
Yeah.
We cannot be reliant on foreign labor.
Okay.
If you go to a building site today, can you find a Malaysian?
Can actually.
You can't.
And this actually this
It's
prophecy coming true.
it's perplexing to me why we can't.
Yeah.
For example, if you go to Australia, they're all locals doing,
Okay.
Yeah.
And the funny part, here in Malaysia, would you, if you had a daughter, I have a daughter, and your daughter said, I would want to marry a bricklayer, you would be like,
Yeah.
no way, you
Yeah.
know. In Australia, when they lay one brick, it's $1 Aussie
Wow.
per brick.
Really?
Yes.
It's called skilled labor, right?
You need to get a certificate in order to lay a brick.
Mm.
But Malaysia is still very much,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then we are now realizing that, okay, for one, AI cannot replace that.
Okay.
When you still
still
need guys to
physical.
go lay
Yeah.
that brick.
Yeah.
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 So that's what really disappoints me in
Yeah.
that way, that
Yeah.
the progress needs to be much
Yeah.
faster.
And something that I realized over the years related to that was how our automotive industry, Proton has got what do you call it, precision manufacturing and systems and processes. To me, I always saw that as a future where building materials can actually be embraced within that system of manufacturing, which our then component manufacturers can actually migrate into building component manufacturers, right? Again, I mean, we can only advocate these changes, but hopefully it's still not an opportunity lost now. Okay, Dato' Mark Rosario, you were in Schlumberger, Europe. I remember this distinctly. You were already in a senior role in Schlumberger in London, right? With like
Paris,
financial
Paris.
control, Paris, yeah. And that was quite a long while back before you actually came back to Malaysia. So what was that? What was the pivotal moment when you came back here, and what actually transpired?
Well, actually, maybe going back a bit before that,
Okay.
I like Andrew who followed his father's footsteps. My father was an engineer,
Okay.
working in the government.
Uh-huh.
He had a scholarship from the government to go and study in the UK and did his engineering. Although I didn't want to follow in his footsteps to do engineering, I wanted to follow his footsteps and go and study in the UK.
Okay.
Although my siblings actually all went to, my brother and sister went to Australia, my other sister went to New Zealand.
I see.
So I was fortunate enough to get a fee scholarship to do my A-levels in the UK. So that got me into the UK, and then I went to the London School of Economics and did my degree. and then chartered accounting after that with KPMG. And after I had qualified, somehow they were, after you graduate at ICAW, there'll be a lot of recruitment companies trying to find you, get you jobs elsewhere.
Sure.
One of them asked me if I was interested to work in Paris with Schlumberger.
Okay.
So I said, yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
And I would say that was a pivotal point in my career because Schlumberger is a great company, a true multinational. Every nationality in every country that they operate, 110 countries,
Yes.
they would employ people from all those countries. And so my first job with them was based in Paris, an internal consulting role, where it was small teams, 6 in Paris and 6 in Houston, all from different backgrounds, technical background, finance,
Yes.
and IT, and we worked together on consulting projects internally. And it was a great exposure,
I can imagine.
not only from the work that we were doing, but also from having to work with anyone from any culture, all over the world. We were traveling most of the time. And I think that's what probably shaped my own career in terms of how, being willing to undertake any kind of role and work in any environment. So I was transferred back to KL and then to Indonesia with Schlumberger.
Okay, so that's how you came back.
In the
this
6
way.
years
Oh.
that I was with them. But when I went to Indonesia, I had already sort of found it very comfortable to be back home.
Yes.
So I then moved to. It was Quan Ferry that actually approached me and said, "You want to work for Sunway?"
Sunway, yeah.
Just before the ASEAN crisis.
Oh, so it was quite timely lah.
Yeah. So I joined Sunway as the group financial controller. A couple of years later, became the group CFO and finance director.
Yeah.
And that was a great experience as well. 11 years with Sunway, seeing them through the financial crisis. You look at where Sunway is today, from that, probably one of its lowest points. When we were everyone was hit.
Yeah.
But Sunway saw through the crisis very well,
Yeah.
and it was a great experience as well.
Yeah.
And all this experience allowed me to then look at taking CEO roles, and so the subsequent roles after Sunway were all CEO roles.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've had the privilege of having CEO roles in local conglomerates,
Yeah.
multinational like GE,
Yes.
as well as the government.
Yes, that's
running
right.
the National Innovation
Yeah.
Agency for 6 years.
Agency Inovasi Malaysia.
Yeah, which was probably the most interesting part of my career.
Yeah.
Kind of work that we were doing
Yeah.
in innovation.
Actually, Mark, I just want to reflect that particular point because you've been in multinationals all the while. Even back here, it was with private company. But what was it like actually moving into the real public sector? Because in those days, AIM was under the Prime Minister's Department, right?
Yeah.
So, wow, I mean, what in hindsight, what was it maybe that you saw, that you see now, that was not expected when you took that decision to join and as on top it was an implementation agency on top of that?
Well, I guess the challenge of coming from private sector into the government is first of all the system, right? Working in the government and working with the ministries has its own sets of challenges. But as I said, having that experience working in different environments, different cultures, sort of try to adapt. But the really different part of working in government is that you get these budgets, and of course every year your budget's getting cut.
Yes.
And if you don't use up the budget, it gets cut even more.
You don't get it again.
You don't get it again. So sorry, I have to wrap your head around that. You need to spend,
Okay.
but it's
Spend wisely.
Yeah, but it's not what we did. We just we don't use budgets just for the sake of using it.
Exactly.
And I think that was appreciated as well. And but it was actually very, I would say, fulfilling to be working in the government, serving the country, and being given the opportunity to try and make a difference. You know, the kind of initiatives that we had. You know, everything is like national.
Okay.
Right, and
it involves innovation, something new lah, something that's
you
meant
get
to be
exposed to all
groundbreaking
sorts
lah.
of new things.
Kan.
So it was really
And you were there for a good 4 years?
6 years.
6 years. There you are. Yeah. And of course, another member of our close knit group, Nasir Jaafar, also joined you for a bit, and then he took over from you.
yes.
So yeah. Okay. Wow, guys. Okay. This one we're gonna kacau sikit. Okay. We don't talk politics, current affairs.
Sorry.
Okay.
Don't talk what? Politics.
We don't talk politics.
Okay.
We don't talk current affairs. But this is really out of the blue.
Okay.
I'm going to give it open to us. Whatever you want to say. If we were looking at what we see today in Malaysia, and if there's anything that you feel you'd advise for change, okay, again, Merdeka and me, and what would you change? What is it that you think would be useful for policymakers and business people and the like in general? What would you say would be useful to consider? And I'm gonna start. Whoa. Okay. These are my thoughts, and I'll be very frank. I somehow looking back in our formative years, fine, we spoke a common language. English lah, maybe it was English. Bahasa was there, but I somehow feel that the one distinct element that we have, apart from English actually, is our languages. So I know recently there was a request by the Ministry of Education to say, look, what are ideas that the public can contribute? I'd actually think about it this way lah. Why not? In the education system, they actually reintroduce different languages. To me lah, if it means that, for example, apart from English and Bahasa, why not actually have components of the education where people learn Mandarin and even Hindi or
Actually, I would fully subscribe to that because you know the uniqueness of Malaysia is the diversity, and the fact that we are right in the center of ASEAN.
Okay.
In fact, now we are a big attraction for Chinese companies, Indian companies to actually use this as a base for ASEAN because of our language ability, right? We have, we can converse more or less in Indonesia, Bahasa Indonesia, right? Because of the similarity with Bahasa, Bahasa Malaysia. And then you've got Tamil and Hindi speakers and Mandarin and all the different dialects. So a huge advantage,
Exactly.
if you have that pool of talent
who have multilingual abilities, right?
Yeah, obviously I got my breaks because I had the ability to speak multiple languages.
You speak Cantonese too.
Yes.
Cantonese. What about other dialects? Mandarin. You speak Mandarin?
I don't speak it because every time I speak Mandarin, it comes out Cantonese. But I understand.
You understand.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, that's important.
All the
And I understand Hokkien. I understand Hakka because of my mother's
your mother's side.
Yeah. So the fact that you're able to communicate in multiple languages, it's a real big advantage, I can tell you, especially when you work for multinationals.
Okay.
You work for the Americans or you work for the Australians. They can't, and that's why they relied heavily on getting Malaysians like myself, and I had the opportunity because they said, hey, this guy can speak multiple languages. And the fact I'm from a mixed background, so I know the Western thinking.
Exactly.
I know the Eastern side of things. It just gave me that opportunity.
Actually, in school, I learned a bit of Chinese, but it came from Andrew.
That one you cannot
I can't
repeat.
the phrases.
those kind of what you learn with Andrew, I don't think you can use.
Not Sharia compliant.
No, but I think language is very important. Not also. I mean, it's important for you to further yourself, make you more marketable. But it's also unifying factor.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, my mother is from Kelantan. I've been going back to Kelantan frequently, and if you look at Kelantanese, they have their own dialect, right?
Correct.
So it doesn't matter whether you are Chinese Kelantanese, you're Indian Kelantanese, you speak Kelantanese.
Exactly. You can't tell the difference.
You can't tell the difference whether you are Chinese, you are from an Indian ethnicity. You know, it's a unifying factor for them. Then you move further. You move further to when I was working in Indonesia. Everybody speaks bahasa Indonesia, right? So it doesn't really matter whether you are, Indonesia Chinese or everything. It goes even down to Javanese. If you can speak Javanese, even though you are from your ancestry is from Chinese, you are considered a Javanese, orang Jawa. So so I think to me, yes, language is very important to further yourself, to make you more marketable, but it's more of a unifying factor. Bonding. I mean, if you look at all of us, we have our own language, and once we speak to each other, it's just that we know we have been together so long. We can say things that other people cannot say to each other. It's as though we are siblings. We can say things to your brother or your sister, and the other person will just shrug it off and laugh it off. That's how it is.
Both verbal and written too.
I mean, look at Andrew. Andrew speaks Malay like a Malay.
No, he doesn't.
Kena cari makan bang.
Kita makan dulu.
So that's an advantage for you.
Exactly.
And of course, Ron, not forgetting your earlier anecdote about IBS. If there's something about this, time and period, all the more lah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as I said, for Malaysia to move forward, at the moment, how many I lose count on the foreign labours we're using. We cannot be dependent on foreign labour. I speak this openly even when
you used to write articles on this too.
Correct, and I used to tell ministers we cannot be reliant. What really boggles my mind is that our way out of things is we bring in more foreign labour. That's not the answer. And in fact, currently, what's the minimum wage? 1,500 ringgit.
I don't know.
How do you survive on 1,500 ringgit? And then what? Get teachers from Singapore? I don't think any teachers would want to
this
come to
latest thing
Malaysia.
about trying to bring in teachers.
Do you know that teachers are, I think, the second highest paid
in Singapore.
government servant in Singapore? In Malaysia, I mean, my mother, she retired after 30 odd years of teaching
as a headmistress
and her pension was 1,000 odd ringgit.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Actually, do you know how Singapore introduced IBS? When
They just said-
you apply for planning permission, approval permits, you have to show something called a buildability index.
correct, buildability
So a
index.
certain amount of precast, automation, and all that has to be. This was
If not,
already
you won't. Yeah,
This is like
30 years ago.
This is 30 years ago.
Right.
Yes.
The HDB are all done with precast.
It's just that political will. It's not here. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
Everyone's so worried about losing votes or whatever. I don't know, but we cannot continue depending on foreign labor. As long as we continue to do that, things won't move.
Yeah. Okay, any thoughts?
Well, I think our education system need to be reset.
Everyone's talking about it, okay?
Yeah.
It's not. Seems to be a common topic, but I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, what about you and your money markets and capital markets?
Why high, sell low?
Why
It's going to be a paid online seminar.
okay.
The danger with Andrew, whatever he recommends means he's selling. So you got to be very careful.
Buy.
Yeah.
He's selling already. Okay. Well, anyway, guys, any final thoughts? Are we good for today? Okay.
Well, I've enjoyed this session.
Yes,
Thanks
yeah.
for inviting me.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, I mean, again, I wish people would get together more like
Okay.
we do.
Yeah. I think we're blessed. I mean, not wanting to don't want to overdo it, but in reflection, we didn't know this when we were growing up, and yet you can see where we are. All of us are turning 60 this year, or have turned 60 this year. So we can only be thankful for the life that we've had.
I think we grew up in a time where we were colorblind, right? And that diversity strengthened us.
Yeah.
And over the last few decades, I think we lost it.
Yeah.
If we can bring that back, I think you will do better for the nation.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So are we gonna do it? Our school rally is a parting note. For all of us. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
Cheer and courage display. All ye Johannians join in the lay. Send a volley of cheers on high. Shake out the thunder from the sky. What though the odds be great or small, heroes St. John's will win overall. While her loyal sons are marching on to victory. St. John's!
Thank you guys.
So, thank you
Thank you.
guys.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak-banyak. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Cuba Cerita. We hope that you found it very fulfilling and also a bit of enlightenment along the way. But there are a lot of deep, important messages that we as a group tried to share. Nothing was scripted. It was very random. So it comes from our hearts. So please, thank you once again for joining us. Please continue to subscribe. We are coming to a conclusion of season 2 soon. But that doesn't mean we're going away for good. But please support us so that we can continue on in terms of what we're trying to do. Till then, Assalamualaikum, Salam Sejahtera, until we see you again. Have a good week ahead.